All right, coming to you live from my new house. First solo episode in the house. Oh my God, there is so much to do all the time. I am zonked. It's an amazing thing. Um, I don't for one second not appreciate everything about the position that I'm in, that I have a house, that I have a wife and a child, and two wonderful jobs that I love. And but good heavens, is it a lot of work? We closed about a week ago, and it is just you get the keys to this house, and it's this wonderful romantic moment where you're in the lawyer's office and you're signing all the closing papers. Cheers! The sound of Irish crickets, the sound of a can of beer being opened, and and you're celebrating. You get the keys to the house. You walk in the front door, and you try to go to the bathroom, and the toilet's not running. Oh my God, what's going on? And you go try to turn on the sink, and it turns out the water's off. You have to go to the city to get the water on. I have the plumber coming because one of the toilets has not stopped leaking since I walked into the house a couple of hours earlier. I'm not sure what's going on. Notice that the house was built on, or expanded rather, and the rooms that were expanded into, instead of extending the central AC, they had two split mini units, AC units in the separate rooms. They have to be replaced. They're broken. Um, Now, I just wrote the biggest check I'm probably ever gonna write for the rest of my life. Maybe. I hope. And and I walk into a house that immediately needs about five, six, $7,000 worth of work. Forget about the unpacking. Forget about the storage unit. Forget about the fact that I still have both jobs to keep up with. Um, and I love to host. I love to be part of a community, and and I'm hosting people, and people are coming through the doors. We're having a great time, except there's just so much on my mind. It's just never ending. And I started implementing a. It's so healthy. It's so great. I take 5 minutes, usually between 5 and 7 minutes a day, depending on how much time I can afford, and depending also on how much patience I have, and where my headspace is. But take 5 minutes, and I just breathe in and out for 5 minutes at a time, for 5 seconds at a time. Sometimes I'll expand to seven. Sometimes I'll go to 10, depending on how I guess in the zone I am. Um, and and it really helps center me, and it really helps me with just realizing where I am, what's going on, and just calming my brain down. And I mean, this is a separate conversation. I don't think we're meant to be on and be actively thinking, reacting, going all the time. I think our brains and bodies need a break from that. And this gives me even just 5 minutes. I just feel like I get another chance to just get back in the zone and restart my day. And I've been doing a good amount of that. I actually it's funny because when I was teaching, I walked into there was one day last week where I walk in, and it was just everything. I was making trips back and forth to storage, and I was unpacking these boxes. I'm cleaning up after myself because I'm hosting my parents, or my friends rather, for the weekend. My other friend one of my friends is visiting, is proposing, Rami, who was on. Actually, we did an episode last week together with Zach and his fiance Karen, and they're coming, and I have to get a class ready, and I'm not sure what I'm going to write about, and I'm trying to keep up with my sales and my customers, because a lot of times when it comes, especially to my sales industry, if a doctor needs an ultrasound or an ultrasound machine, if you don't follow up frequently, and you don't follow up, I don't want to say aggressively, but aggressively, then they are either likely to forget about you, or to call someone else, or someone else who they probably got a price from or a quote from, will out hustle you. So you have to be on top of. I've lost dozens and dozens of leads over my life, because I just had not, I kind of let them go for a couple of days, or, a week. And then I go back and go, oh my God, are you still looking for this? And they say, nope, sorry, I bought it from someone else, um, which is a heartbreaker. So I'm trying to, make that not happen. And um, all worked up, and I find, and I get 5 seconds, and I'm breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, not moving, eyes closed, just being in my body, just being in my head, being aware of my body, feeling my hand. I'm holding my own hand, sitting at a desk, and and I wrote on the board, um, not sleeping, meditating, because I got there a couple minutes early. Wait for alarm, because I set an alarm on my phone, and I woke, and a couple of students walked in, a couple giggled and left. A couple walked in and stayed. They were curious to see what I was doing for how long. And then a couple were curious and asking about it. And then the last couple of days, I did this last week, so about, 6 or 7 classes ago, I walked back in, and my students were sitting there trying this meditation process too. And and they were trying to figure out what the benefits were. And I think it's really cool because, I mean, it's so hard for me to put myself in a high school student's shoes in some ways. In some ways, it's really easy for me. In some ways, I totally, totally understand what it's like I relate to, and I understand what it's like to be stuck behind a desk for so many hours a day, and to go from one class to the next, and like, what just feels like a never ending march towards whatever. And you just don't know when it's ever going to end, and you just want to break, and you're just tired, and you just need a second. And I totally, totally get that. But I don't understand. It's hard for me to get into the psychology, into the heads of the students, and what they value, what they care about, what their slang is, what their interests are, like what's new and cool with them. It's just I just can't keep up. And I know I'm 28, but I feel like I'm 100 when I say something like that. But it's true. Um, Excuse me, I'm just relighting my cigar from earlier. Went out. So yeah, so apparently it struck them as interesting enough and relevant enough that they said, I could use a couple of 5 minutes to decompress, and they were trying it. They were doing it with me, and that was a cool feeling. But so while I'm doing this, I'm sitting, and I'm doing this for the first time with my students, and I'm doing this without them, actually, rather. One or two are observing, the rest are coming and going. I'm thinking about everything that I have in my mind. I'm thinking about what I have to take care of. And I'm thinking about the challenges that are ahead and what I have to do and what I've gotten done. And my head is just swirling. And I just stop and I just think to myself, I'm like, you know what? And the thought came actually pretty naturally. I don't think I even had to really force it. It was like, I'm so lucky to have the problems that I have, because everyone has problems. And everyone has issues, and everyone has challenges, and everyone has things keeping them busy one way or the other. And I'm so happy that these are my problems. I'm so happy my problem is that I have to call a plumber for the house that I own. I'm so happy the problem is that I got to put my kid that I love to sleep and watch him grow and watch him start. He's even started the podcast. He's gone from crawling to walking in the last 2 months, and that's incredible. It's truly incredible. And he's waving, and he's more conscious, and he knows what he's doing. And I'm lucky that my problem is that, I have a wife that I love, and that she loves me, and that we have to work on, and we're trying to, in the hustle and in the craziness of every day of being life partners, to make time to spend with one another, and to have friends that want to come visit, and a community of people. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but these are the best problems to have. And there was just an enormous wave of just gratitude that allowed me to kind of soak in and just let it all sink in and just be, and and it just gave me more fuel and recharged my batteries. I felt like I was just ready to do this, and it's all just a matter of framing it in my head that, yeah, it went from I have so much to do to I'm so lucky that I have all this to do, and these are great things to do. That's all I was really thinking, and that was really awesome. It was really a magnificent one. So today I I wasn't sure what I was going to teach today because I'm working with a friend on a project in the house and in my house, and I wasn't sure what I was going to teach. I wasn't sure how what I was going to do because I don't really have a set syllabus, not out of laziness, but because I like to base it on my students' feedback and then kind of try to get an organic sense of what is, okay, they're interested in this. Where's the next natural direction to go with this? They didn't like this topic. Let me try something else. They didn't like this style of reading or writing. Then let me try doing this. And so I wasn't sure where I was going to go. We just finished talking about cynicism and for one class, um, the relationship between fathers and sons, which I think is, parent and child, really, but it's based on the song Father and Son by Cat Stevens, which is such a magnificent song, something that if you haven't heard, you got to go listen to, and you got to go look at the lyrics, and you got to just think about your relationship with your parents or and as I'm at like that transitional point in my life where it's become where I'm going to start looking at this song from the son's point of view, from the father's point of view, because the song goes back and forth between narratives. Is it the son's narrative? Is it the father's narrative? It goes back and forth, and it's the interactions in their head, their emotions, at trying to work out their interactions and try to make their point to the other one who can't seem to hear them. There's such a powerful line. From the moment that I could talk, I was ordered to listen. And it's the son speaking the line. And it's the son realize, like, it's a feeling in life of feeling like you have so much to say and there's so much in you. And and there's just no one to share it with, and there's no one to say it to. And you just feel like you're yelling into an empty room. And even though there's people around you, they don't hear it. They don't hear you. They don't hear what it is that you're trying to say. And all they're interested is in all they're interested in is what they're saying themselves. And that's an art. That's a conversation. And I'm not as good as I would like to be, though I am proud to be actively working on it. It's something that I care very much to try to do. And I find myself I try and catch myself as often as possible in these moments where I'm talking to someone, I'm teaching, I'm with my wife, or I'm talking to a friend or a cousin or a parent or a sibling. I get so excited about what they're saying that I just cut them off and I want to just say what I think about what they're saying. And that's not what it's about. You got to get out, I mean, you got to get their perspective out and they got to get their ideas out. Um, and the second class is really what really, so I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. And while I'm flipping through a couple of books, I was looking at The Coddling of the American Mind, which I think was a little bit too, it was written a little bit too advanced for my high school, my 10th grade class, or at least this particular class. Um, so I tried to do that last week and I put it aside. And I'm flipping through this book, Hope for Cynics, again, that we were working on previously. And I get to a fascinating chapter, a really, really incredible chapter about how life and friendships and our social interactions are commoditized, are are part of. We used to have two aspects to life. You know, you'd have like your business, the work, the professional part of life, and then you'd have your relationships. And the way that you kind of kept track and nurtured each one of them were very different. So, for example, you know, if I lived my life, you know, I do sales for a living, and part of my interaction with the people that I do sales with, you know, on one hand, I do look for positive interactions, experiences, things that are hopefully meaningful and things that are hopefully enjoyable. But but both of us always know that this is a sale. That this is someone that is going to, you know, someone is calling me to get a product that they want and the best deal that they could get, and I'm trying to sell them the product that I have and try to make a living for myself. Um, and so underneath our relationship, you could have all this friendliness, you could have all this storytelling, you could have a cordial back and forth, you could text, you can email, you could be happy, but underneath it, you know that there's a kind of interaction. There's an exchange that's taking place, and you're not really coming from a place of. You're not really operating from a place of authentic friendship that you're just sharing in each other's company because you guys are pleasant people that you just choose to talk to and you just choose to relate to and engage with. You know, there's something that you guys want from one another, and and then you have friendship. And you have friendship, like, and I have, you know, not all my friendships are like this, but a lot of them are. Thankfully, I'm very, very fortunate, and I think it's probably because I do the same too. I think that people could detect that when, you know, if there's something they're looking for, if they're looking for an authentic friendship, they attract authentic type of people. And if they're looking for, that's what I hope. Maybe it's naive. And then if they're a little bit more, you know, if they're looking to for exchanging what, you know, I had an old rabbi call it social currency, where I know that the certain way that I behave at a certain group of people or dress a certain way around a certain number of people, or it's worth social money. People look at me and they process that I'm X, Y, and Z cool, and I have X, Y, and Z social dollars that I'm cashing in on. You know, I wear the Adidas track pants with the Nikes and the high white Nike socks, and you know, the cool dad baseball hat from the cool brewery that I went to, and now I'm walking around and I've got social currency. It's you know, and then I say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, you know, no big deal. I'm a banker. I'm a financer. I do sales. I make six figures, eight figures, nine figures, whatever it is." Um, you know, and everything that you say and a lot of the things that you do, they're you people. There are people that essentially exist as, you know, their value is their self value, and the way that they perceive the world is through the lens of social currencies, through the lens of how am I going to be accepted and how am I going to be cool, as opposed to, do I have a relationship that I just enjoy the company of? Do I Am I happy to sit in front of my friends, in front of my wife, in front of my siblings, in front of my parents, and not be flattering, you know, to not be cool, and necessarily. I mean, of course, there's a big difference between being a schlub and keeping yourself together, of course, you know, but you're not looking at your relationships through that lens. You're looking through the relationship as, what can I, you know, how can we're just comfortable with each other and we just want to spend time together. How can I share more with you? How can I invest and have more of my time spent with you? Because this is really what I like in my life. And you know, and then we got, so the author of this book, Hope for Cynics, I forgot his name, Jamil something. I keep on thinking Hakeem, but I know it's not. Um, he he writes how social media has turned has or maybe even exaggerated our, you know, this currency form base of friendship, where my friendship with people is based on exchanging likes and exchanging comments and participating in this tit for tat and world of social media. You got to see what they're posting. You got to see who's following them. You got to see how many followers that you have that they share with you. I took a year and a half and I was studying in Israel, and it was the year after high school. So I went from 12th grade, had the summer, and then August of the summer after 12th grade, I went off to Israel for a year and a half, and it was a blast. And there were some high school friends that I kept up with, and there were some that I kept up with less, just because you're making new friends, you're in a different country, and it's hard to keep track. And there's certain people that and so there's certain people that I spoke to, and some people I didn't as much. And after literally, I remember it was a year and a half. It's so funny because this story never came up. Like it hasn't crossed into my consciousness from my subconscious into my consciousness in a very long time. But um, so there was a girl that I was very close with, and she was one of those girls that I was friends with her before she got her high school glow up, right? Where I was friends with her, let's say in 10th grade, then 11th grade, she, got her braces off, started wearing contacts, looks beautiful, is beautiful, is a beautiful, wonderful, beautiful person. Um, and I still think she is. There's no doubt about it. The story doesn't take away from that. But, so we were, and then as that happened, and as this glow up started happening, we became, a little bit less close to getting a lot of attention from other guys. Boyfriend here, boyfriend there. I was, always being kept up with the drama. I was always being updated on the drama in between it happening. So, date a guy, break up, then we'd talk. We wouldn't be talking as much while they're dating. Then in between, kind of vent to me. I was one of those guys. I was the friend zone guy, and then she'd go on and start dating the next guy. And then we would talk for a couple of months, it'd drop off and back and forth. It would just keep on happening. I didn't really think too much about it. I'm sure at the time I thought about it more. I'm sure I'm just whitewashing that in my brain. But I don't think I thought too much about it because at the time I was dealing with my own drama, my own friends, and my own failed attempts at relationships. And so we didn't really speak for that year. What that I was in Israel. And then the second year that I stayed for a second year. A lot of people don't. Most people that stay for a year, or at least in my school, I think maybe 20%, or 30%, which is a huge number relative to what usually stays for another year in the school, stayed. Um, and I only wanted to stay for half a year because I wanted to get back to college. I wanted to go to community college and start to figure out what I was going to do with my life because I was one of the only people I knew that didn't get accepted to any other college but community college. And so I so I'm in Israel, and I remember that it was towards the time I was leaving, which was December time, and December time in the Middle East is still, especially in Jerusalem, because it's in the mountains, and I was hanging out there quite a bit with my friends and keeping up with people, and it was just a good place to spend time. And it gets cold, it gets chilly. I'm walking through the cold streets. I'm all bundled up, and I'm sitting and getting. I think I was either getting a drink or I was getting some food, and I got a text from this girl I hadn't spoken to in forever, and she's, "Hey, how are you?" Like, "Oh my God, it's so good to hear from you. What's going on? How are you?" She goes, "Great, great, great, great. Yeah, it's been forever. How's everything good? What are you up to?" "Well, I'm in the school. I'm trying to be intentionally very vague when it comes to her information, and I'm just in this school and college, and it's been really cool. It's hard, but it's great." And she didn't even say, "What are you up to?" I don't believe. Um, and I was like, "That's awesome." Blah blah blah. And then one or two more texts, and then she goes, "So I just changed my Facebook profile picture, and I was wondering if you could throw me a like, if you can like it, please." Um, and the pit of my stomach dropped. I could, I was really, really in disbelief. I said, and I just I remember looking at my phone screen and just thinking, there's no way that this is actually the conversation that I'm having right now. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I really did, and I certainly have been I have been the victim of the feeling of experiencing the feeling of worthlessness when it comes to not getting sufficient and adequate likes, comments, or feedback on my Facebook profile picture at the time. Um, this is probably the year or two between Facebook really going out of style with a high school and a teenage crowd and Instagram taking over. But I spent many, many, many distraught nights about how I changed the profile picture and didn't get enough likes and didn't get enough reactions or didn't get enough texts or responses to the post. So I kind of understood where she was coming from, but never in my life would I have dreamt to reach out to someone that I hadn't spoken to in like a year and a half, and ask them. It felt so shameless. And but the point of the story is not to rip on this girl. The point of the story is to clarify or to accentuate the point that I was making, which is that social media has kind of caused us has kind of hijacked our brains and our perception of what relationships are to these give and takes. These, hey, can you give me a like so I can feel adequate and I'll comment on your post next time, or can you do this so I can do that for you? And so jury's out on whether or not this actually manifests in real life relationships as well. Meaning, if I'm standing in the same room as this girl, and and I do a medium sized favor. I don't know. I buy her a slice of pizza. We're at the pizza shop, and oh, I forgot my cat. I forgot my wallet. Okay, let me just buy you a couple. $3, $4, $5. Here's a slice of pizza. I'm not gonna. Does that does I personally, the way I view friendships, I'm not gonna hassle that person for $5 back. This is I'm spending time with you. It's a good time. I'm sure that if anything ever happened, our relationship is legitimate enough and sincere enough that you'd have my back as well. And I'm not even thinking about it. Like, okay, $5, $5, $3, $3, who cares? And I'm not sure. I don't. I can't say that I'm entirely convinced that our real life friendship becomes like this. But I think that so many people's so much emotional and mental space, real estate is in our heads, is invested in these platforms that doesn't even necessarily have to transfer over to real life, because what takes place on these platforms is so overwhelming and so frequent that you can be in the same room and your entire friendship is predicated on sitting in the same room and sending each other memes or sending each other or scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or TikTok at the same time while you're even talking. So it still takes up a significant aspect, part of our lives, and a significant aspect of what our social interactions are, for sure. So friendship, for the sake of friendship, on the other hand, again, is kind of just to revel in it. And I was talking to my student, so I was explaining this to my students, and I was asking, do you think that people that donate to charity and get a tax write off, if I had $500,000 and I donated $75,000 to charity, $100,000 to charity, whatever it is, and I get a tax write off, so I'm paying less taxes or getting a bigger, return or whatever it is. I don't even know how it works because I haven't been in the position to give that much, but and I'm not an accountant. So, is the person that does that, is that person a legitimate is that person a authentic, sincere, good person, or are they doing it kind of out of self-interest, and then someone else happens to be benefiting from their self-interest? And we're going back and forth. And one student was saying that, well, if you put your name, if you're the person putting your name on a school or on a building or in a library, then maybe it might indicate that you have a little bit more ego. And then another person said that, no, because just because you feel good about about doing something good doesn't mean you're not doing something good. Meaning, who said, in other words, who says the definition of selfish is that you enjoy as well, and it's not necessarily selfish to feel good by that you're doing something good for someone else. Um, and the truth is that I think that's actually a very good point, and there is a lot of nuance in that way of thinking, in that perspective, which I really do, which I did appreciate and value, and I have to think about because I haven't even processed it entirely myself and really come to any kind of real conclusion in my head about it. And then I was talking about, um, a lot of so, and then I was talking, and then I was thinking about religions because one of the fascinating aspects of religion, and it doesn't make a difference really what religion you're talking about. Um, Most religions, most cults, most indoctrinating societal cultures or cultural doctrines in society. I think I'm saying that right. Most of them kind of give preach this notion of do good things now, and then in the afterlife or in the future or some point in the distant future, you're going to be compensated greatly for your behavior now. So, don't do, give charity even though you don't want to, because, in the world to come, you're gonna be sent to heaven, and don't give in to your animalistic desires, because in the world to come you're gonna go to hell, and and a lot of cultures have a lot of different senses like that, and a lot of different a lot of different philosophies and perspectives like that. And then so I asked my students, um, this is actually kind of the point that, and actually I wasn't even sure what I was going to talk about in this podcast until I had this class and I was talking about it. But I was asking my students, I told them a story, one of my favorite stories I've heard in a long time. It's a metaphor, obviously, for more, yeah, a metaphor for another point that you're just trying to drive home. But, there's a girl that's driving around in a beautiful Aston Martin, and, she sees a good looking guy walking down the street, and lowers her window and says, "Hey, want to go on a date?" I looks at her and goes, "Oh, nice car, first of all. Thank you very much. You're not really my type. I don't know who you are. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to see a friend. You're not really my type. I appreciate it. And I've got a lot." You didn't have to say that you're my type. I have a lot to do. I'm sorry. I don't have time to go on a date with a stranger right now. And she says, "Well, what about if I give you $20 million?" $20 million. He's like, "Yeah." He goes, and she pulls up a Forbes article, and she's a billionaire. And she goes, "Listen, I have X, Y, and Z amount of money, and I want to take you out for the night, and I'll give you $20 million. I'll send it to you right now if you get in the car." He goes, "Okay." He's about to climb into the car, and she locks the door. She goes, "Okay, well, actually, I'm going to give you $20. $20? Sorry, lady. What do you think I am? A prostitute? I'm on my way. I got things to do. I'm going somewhere." And the woman looks at him, and she responds. And she goes, "Well, we already know that you're a prostitute. The question is, how much money are you willing to take? What's your price?" And and the whole idea, we're just haggling now over we're talking about nuance. So if you're willing to sell out for $20 million, then you are a prostitute, to a certain extent. And there are people that are willing to sell it for $20, and they're a different type of prostitute. And so then I asked these students who, I don't know if I would get in trouble with this in the future or not, and whatever. But I said, how many of us have our relationship with, because this is an ultra Orthodox Jewish school, how many of us have that kind of relationship with Judaism, where someone's offering you, someone's promising you in, some point in the distant future, heaven. Someone's promising you this notion of everything is going to be perfect, and I'm going to give you everything you ever wanted, and all you have to do is just live this lifestyle that I'm forced that you don't really want to live, but I'm forcing you to do. That I'm just telling you to do, and you're going to exchange your life, because at some point in the distant future, you're going to be able to, you're going to get this payout. I was like, what's the difference between you guys and the guy in that story? And the students weren't quite sure how to respond to that. And I don't necessarily even blame them because I wouldn't have thought about anything like that when I was 16 years old either. But I do think that it's extremely important to start thinking about. And I don't think that it's beyond their level of intelligence to have a discerning enough perspective to say, I want to live my life by what my values and truths and what I find to be meaningful, like a quote unquote friendship, as opposed to exchange, as opposed to a commodity friendship, like someone trading Instagram likes or someone exchanging money to hang out with you. And I said, imagine, and one student said, it doesn't make a difference doing what God said. I said, that's a good point. I said, would it make a difference to you if every single time you hung out with, you went out, if you were married in 10 years from now, and every single time that you went on dinner with your wife, you had to pay her to spend time with you, as opposed to her saying, listen, I had a really long day. I'm so tired, but all I want to do is just hang out on the couch and just talk and catch up. I was like, tell me how different that kind of relationship would be to, listen, you got, 20 minutes and it's 20 minutes on the clock, $20 to hang out with me tonight. And yeah, I'll be your wife because you put a roof over my head and because you give me food, because you pay for the food and because you do whatever it is. and and the students are really taken aback for a little while. And I said, the important thing about life is to pursue, or at least from my very limited but hopefully honest and real perspective, is you got to pursue the things that are worth pursuing for their own sake and their own value. Pursue your religion not because you're promised an afterworld, but because you love what you do. You love the community. You love the value of giving charity. You love the value of maintaining a tradition that people thousands of years ago gave their lives, or hundreds of years ago, or 70 years ago in the Holocaust, gave their lives to allow you to continue. And when you feel that connection, it means a lot to you. It means something beautiful to you. It means that it's not a relationship that is tit for tat. It's something that you genuinely enjoy. And I was like, and when you spend time with people, and when you do something with your free time, and when you have your free time, do what you love with it, have your friendships, have your relationships with it, and feel like it's a real friendship. Feel like I just am engaging with this person or with this activity or in this hobby or in this sport, not for any other reason other than the fact that I love it. And then if at some point you do really well, great, then all the better, But and this goes back, and I've talked about this so many times on the podcast, but I keep on saying it because I really, really, really believe that it's true. The people that are the best leaders, the people that are the best musicians, the people that are the top authority at anything that they do, the best at what they do, they're the best at what they do and they're leaders because they love what they do, not because they're trying to use a tool for some other trade reason, not to get something out of other people. And people will be successful because of it, but they won't be the greatest. They won't be the definitive version of what it is to be good at basketball, what it is to be good at music, what it means to be a real leader of a society and a real leader of a culture. And and you have to hope, and you have to hope, and you have to pray, and you have to pursue it just because you love what it is that you're pursuing. um and there's times where you don't feel like it, and that's actually something that I've been struggling with in terms of this podcast recently, is that it's been very it's I've been having a difficult time getting new guests on and getting people and quote unquote cold calling guests. And there are times where I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just let a couple of days go by without recording. Let me let a couple of days go by without getting someone else on. Like, it's okay. I mean, how many times could I have of Rami on? How many times could I have a repeating guest on? How many times could I do something like this? And the answer is, and then I walk away after I record. I'm like, I am so happy that I did that. I just I just feel energized, and I just feel like I used my time valuably, and I just feel productive. I just feel happy that I got a chance to do this and to put this out into the world, and to hope that one day that I get to have more fun conversations with more people and different types of people and different perspectives, and to learn and to keep my mind open and to not be stuck in one perspective and one attitude, and while maintaining my sense of who I am and having that sense of just knowing myself, but becoming, and I don't even care, when I say a quote unquote leader, I don't care to be a leader in that sense. I just care to pursue what I want to do and be the best at it. I want to be a great guitar player. I want to be a great podcaster. I want to be a great teacher. I don't care as much to be the best salesman in the entire world. It's just not. It's not anything that I really, really, really care about. It's not anything that really speaks. That really, really speaks to me. So here I am. I'm in my backyard. I'm probably getting bitten up by mosquitoes as we speak. But I just I'm the God or the universe or everything, my family. There's so many different factors that have gone into what makes my life so remarkable, and I keep on trying to just pull at these strands and try to figure out where everything comes from. So lucky to have my parents, so lucky to have my siblings. Where does that come from, and where do my parents come from, and how can I thank them? What can I do to make a tribute to them? What can I do to 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 express this gratitude and this sense of I really don't I don't I it's almost I wouldn't call it full on imposter syndrome, but I don't know what I did to live my life, to have my life. I really don't. Um, and I put yeah. I think that it's remarkable, and the only thing that I can hope, and the only thing that I can really try to do, is to share the appreciation, is to share the perspectives that hopefully allow me to continue this healthy life, to help me continue this happy life, and to share that ideas that, that we don't think about. I didn't think about this in this way literally until today. Today was my first time in my life thinking about something like this. And I knew that it was that the notion existed. I knew the concept existed, but I didn't understand. I didn't know how to put it into words like this. I didn't know how to phrase it like this. And I'm just, yeah, it's just incredible, So I have to keep my head down. I have to keep on going. I have to figure out a way to kind of reach out to people and see who would come on and how to find someone that I'd be interested in talking to, because um, yeah, I I'm very excited for what the future holds. I'm very excited for the present. I'm very excited. I appreciate the past more than anything, and I am truly, truly, truly grateful. All right, that's it for tonight. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.